Hi, I'm Kim Simpao, Director of Communications for ACETA. It is my pleasure to introduce Texas Instruments. We have Larissa Swanland, who is the University Manager for Texas Instruments, and she will be presenting on Bring Project-Based Learning Anywhere TI Educational Hardware. Larissa?
So I'm in a tenuous position to be the last presenter after you guys have gone through all of this. So please bear with me, but I do think it'll be worth it. But Kim introduced me. I'm the University Marketing Manager. I actually focus particularly on microcontrollers, but I'll be talking about the whole portfolio. And actually in the back of the room is the rest of my team. And then a lot of you are familiar with TI. Kathy Wicks, she'll be here later this afternoon. Her flight just got in. So this is a really important event for TI, and we're very focused on it. And so we hope that you guys get to take advantage of that. So like I said, TI is a very unique education partner. And as I was listening to all of the talks today, it was kind of amazing for me to see how much TI has to do with all parts of the educational services. So, I mean, from working with Digilent on, possible kits in the future, for having similar common needs with ADI and Freescale, because we're all in this together to get a bigger user base. Lego Mindstorms was mentioned with National Instruments, and that's something that we've been very active in. So, I mean, we're all over the place, and actually Mauser's been one of the best distributors that I've worked with to try and get custom kits for universities. So we're all over the place, and TI really is a unique educational partner because we are so large and we have such a large reach. So this is what the story comes to me is this, the story about the blind men having to feel the different parts of the elephant. And so, that reminds me of TI a great deal because a lot of you might have some understanding of what TI provides. Our roots are in our DSP legacy, but we've really morphed and evolved into a very different company now. But some people look at TI as a place for my students to go and be designers. Some people look at TI as a place where, potentially I could get my next app developed or, a supplier of chips. But we really have multifaceted, and because of that, it's important to kind of take a step back and see what the TI University program and what TI can offer you. So I always go through this because even my own mother, I've worked for TI now for 7+ years, and my own mother still doesn't know what I do. So I always take a moment, and especially with students, even ECE students, they still have this thing where they're not sure what TI does. But we are based in Texas. We're over 80 years old, and so we are one of the founding members of the semiconductor industry. We're Fortune 500, and we have over $12 billion in revenue. And of that, calculators are a very small portion of it, so students are always shocked. So, but what's amazing is that we have 100,000 plus semiconductor products, and even more so when we acquired National. But that means that we are designing, manufacturing, supporting, road mapping, applications, there's a whole infrastructure that we have to be able to support for our semiconductor products. It's 100,000 of them. So we're in over 35 countries, and this is the most remarkable one for me, but we're 100,000 customers worldwide at least. That's a very conservative estimate because TI is actually very conservative. And so, but what that means is that since we are not actually, targeting the end consumer, there's a potential that almost every person who handles a piece of technology has encountered TI, in some aspect. So, and that's remarkable to me. But one of the things that attracted me to TI initially when I was looking at jobs was that we have a very rich legacy in education. And education is kind of one of our core components to our company. And so it's not a trendy thing or hey, we need to hire somebody because nobody's there to do this job. It's actually a core component of how our company is structured. And so what's a scary thing for me actually is that a lot of students today don't know what a speak and spell is, and I'm like, when did I get old? So anyways. The other part of it is that we're in so many things, and yet there's seems to be a disconnect with non-engineers and engineers of not even non-engineers. There's a disconnect with the general public on what technology does. And when they think of technology, they think of iPhone or iPad. But actually, it's a whole plethora of things, and TI is in all of them. So having that general awareness of what technology is and what the components are of technology, and like the block diagram, even if someone could visualize the block diagram when they looked at a piece of hardware, that would help TI immensely. So just that simple awareness is something that we're constantly battling. So we do have the world's largest, and widest, broadest semiconductor portfolio, but we make that completely available to education. And so when we look at it, you can basically build any application with our portfolio, but we don't treat education as separate from our customer base. In fact, education, you have the same sample program, you have the same community support. We don't have a separate thing for our students. We do have a separate forum for education related that are not technical, but technical support questions, there's no way to differentiate between a student and a paying customer today. And that's something that, is a real big benefit for us. So like I said, we're very focused on education. So personally for me, I really want to inspire and motivate the future engineers. It needs to be cool, actually, to be an electrical engineer, because when it becomes cool, there's more awareness, and that awareness I told you about really helps TI because we have so many products. So I did buy this shirt, by the way, and we do this, one of the ways, our strategy for this is that you hear, this is between MOOCs and other things, hands-on project-based learning is another bingo word of late, but it's really important because it's it's the way that kids engage, but not just kids, it's a real good way to, that's a terrible English thing, but it's a real strong way for a student to be able to root the theory that they're learning in the classrooms into application. And that's really when they start to work through the issues. And so we want more because we've been doing hands-on learning. Our university program has been on for over 20, 25, 30, maybe I have to ask my manager back there, so he's nodding, 30 years. So anyways, and it's rooted in the DSP part of things where we started deploying kits into universities for students to play with the kits. But we want more. And so we can either add labs, which I know that there's resources and there's constraints and, are you going to get more TAs, more space? Or we can introduce more projects, assign homework, or get more extracurricular things. All those things require some effort, and we're here to help. So like I said, more. So this is our standard pitch slide, and you can actually get a hold of this on ti.com/university. And so this kind of shows the breadth. This is just our embedded processing portfolio. We scale from the 16-bit microcontroller, so we don't have 8 bits, but we have 16 bits at 8-bit prices, all the way over to the multi-core heterogeneous DSPs that you find in cell phones and server farms. So there's 5 unique architectures at least, and we have all 3 of the A, R, and M. So we have all 3 of the ARM architectures in our portfolio. So it is one of the biggest and most complete embedded processing portfolios, but here's the best part. Code Composer Studio runs on all of the platforms, and we give it away for free to education. So under one install, it's kind of Lord of the Rings-esque, but one install rules them all. You have access to at least 5 different architectures under one installation. And so it is getting much better, so I will sit down with anybody who wants to complain about Code Composer Studio. I'm known internally as the Code Composer Studio witch, because I'm it needs to be a better user experience. So we can talk about that any day, but it is actually it's a very powerful industry tool, and I'm starting to get converts from IAR, so victory. So this is our labs today, and I'm very familiar. Actually, this is at Michigan Tech, so I don't see Michigan Tech here, but this is up at Michigan Tech. And so you see it's the stations. Digilent did a very good job of kind of talking about the changing dynamics. So this is what we normally provide to people. So there's the hardware platform, software platform, and then any teaching material that we can help you implement your course. And this is core to the university program. We've always had this, and we will continue to have this because labs that are a part of your curriculum are very important to us. And so we'll continue to have this. These tools come from industry, so these are the exact same tools our customers are using. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but in general, we get feedback that it's usually good because when they go out into their jobs, they can actually get a hold of the tool. So we're trying to make that experience very seamless. But it makes up 4 parts. It's the hardware, the software, the teaching material, and then any value-added services. So that's pretty much for adding labs if you wanted to add additional labs, the traditional way to teach it. But as we look at these are 3 different ways to teach. And so what we really want to look is to remove the barriers of entry. And so the biggest one is that we wanted to bring the hardware down to very affordable. And really work on the software experience for the user. So these are 2 of, and I'm going to pick it up the pace a little bit. These are 2 platforms that we really focus on for community engagement. It's the Launchpad and the Beaglebone. And so Launchpad's actually 3 different boards, but it's a brand name for our microcontroller side of things. And Beaglebone is for our higher end processors. But the point of this is that these are affordable kits, prices, and I'm actually giving away, if you come by the booth, I will give everybody one. I brought enough for everybody, so please come by and I'll give everyone to you. So, but the hardware, the biggest focus of the hardware was to give all of the functionality and features you needed to get up and running and started, include it in the box, and make sure it was at a price that we were proud of. And basically it was as low as possible we could go that would still enable our distributors. So $10 is what we start at. $10 is complete. People say the cost of an engineering textbook. I remember when I was in school and I had to pay $300 for a textbook. That's a big range. So $10 is something I wouldn't mind dropping a couple dollars for. I mean, I wouldn't mind spending for. That's like lunch for me. The other part is Beaglebone, and so Beaglebone's been out for 5 years, but this is the Linux computer functionality in it, and it's, but we have a new one that starts at $60, but it doesn't go more than $149. So, like I said, everything you need is in the box, and so including the cable. And so with the Beaglebone, it ships with a full distro of Linux, and it's already hardware compatible. Unlike Raspberry Pi, where you have to get another board if you want to do hardware, this is actually already pinned out to take hardware. And so the difference between, we really wanted to focus on an open source software environment for these boards because we wanted to bring the software development environment for free. And so in addition to the low cost boards. And so we can you can stop by the booth and we can talk a little bit about it. And so, but Code Composer Studio and GCC are the 2 that we have right now supported for free on all of them. And then these are some other community efforts that have come through. So processing, we do have an Arduino port, but we call it Energia. And then we also have a way that you can program the Beaglebone from Node.js, and that's like using JavaScript. And that brings us to a really interesting place. So now that we have platforms that can go pretty much anywhere and you can deploy them because they're low cost, and we have software environments that can kind of morph to the different needs, we have, of course, the intro EE where you've never programmed before or you've had very little programming, but you're coming from a hardware background. And then you have application level CS people and who are very used to a PC thing. And then you have this embedded programming continuum inside of it. So what we've done here is that, is that we've kind of drawn this little dotted line where, okay, like if you are coming from a hardware background and you're getting into software, we would put you towards the launch pads. If you're coming from a software background and you want to think about integrating hardware, say your awesome app, you want to connect that to your fridge, then that would be more Beaglebone. So software for hardware people and hardware for software people. And so, so like I said, it's that whole scalability part of it. This is a quick demo, but what I might do is cut it off. But I wanted to show you guys, when I say ease of use, this is what happens when you enable an open source compiler. we get to work with people who, this is one of the outreach programs. This will be officially released in June, but it's a drag and drop GUI interface. And this is a great way for students to get exposed to microcontrollers. So not necessarily, we don't, especially if they're ECE, we don't want them to stay in this, but like this is a good way to get like a high school student engaged in engineering or maybe a freshman engineering course. And so, but what the beauty of this, why I love this one, it doesn't abstract it away, because then you want to see what the code is underneath it. You flip it over and it shows you each individual component, what the code's underneath it. It runs on top of our Energia environment, which is Arduino. And so you can copy paste that code into Energia and it works. Now after you finish Energia and you've maxed out all the capabilities and you really need a debugging thing, you can actually migrate to Code Composer Studio. And that's an industry-ready tool. So anyways, real quickly is, Launchpad's only been out for 2.5 years, and we've already shipped, we're almost at 500,000 already. 2.5 years and we're already out, and so our community boards are there. We're over 300 universities and counting. And so I'm getting the evil eye from Kim, so I'll make sure to scale back on this. But do stop by the booth and talk about the beauty of this system is not necessarily the embedded programming part of it. Programming is just a gateway. What you want to do is make these students think about the system block diagram, and TI has the system block diagram, and we do that through booster packs. And booster packs are add-on boards that go on top of the Launchpad or the Beaglebone, and they basically give you access to the entire analog portfolio. And we have a whole ecosystem built up around that. So definitely come by and like check out our Launchpad, and we're giving one away to each and every one of you. It's a really exciting place, because what we're trying to do is that we want to give students the opportunity to create. So thank you.